Hey guys, it's Vicky, and today I'm here to share with you the books that I read in May. Um, May was kind of a weird month for me. Um, I was feeling pretty slumpy for a big chunk, and I think there was a couple reasons for that. I think first of all, I had read my butt off in March and April. I just really pushed myself those 2 months, and it was great. I read a lot. But I think I was feeling a little bit of that burnout by the time May came along. And then also I was dealing with some illness in May, which is really unfortunate because that's when the weather kind of starts to turn here in Michigan. And I made it pretty much all through cold and flu season pretty unscathed, me and the kids and my husband. And then of course in May we got hit with the stomach bug. That was how I spent Mother's Day weekend. So that was really great. And then right after that, we all got colds. Well, except my husband. My husband did not get the stomach flu or the cold. He avoided both. Lucky bastard. But me and the kids, yeah. The last part of May, we were sick. I'm actually just now starting to feel better. So yeah, May was just kind of weird. And it did affect my reading a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about the books that I did read. Okay, so the first two books that I read in the month of May, I read for the Halloween-a-thon readathon that took place the first week, and it was really fun. It seems like it was ages ago, though. During that readathon, I read two books. The first one that I read was I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. This fulfilled the challenge to read a book that had been adapted into a movie and watch the movie. Which I did, and it fulfilled, what was the other one it fulfilled? Oh, to read from a master of horror. Richard Matheson is a well-known sci-fi horror writer. And then the third challenge was to read a short story or whatever. And so my plan had originally been to read some more of the short stories in this collection because I Am Legend is about the first half. And then the second half is a bunch of different short stories. Well, I didn't end up reading any of those. But I did read I Am Legend. And this is basically a vampire story. It's about a guy named Robert Neville who is, as far as he knows, he is the last man on Earth. This horrible virus type thing has come through. And basically everyone has turned into vampires in one way or another. And he is dealing with that and trying to survive and also trying to find some sort of cure so that he is not alone anymore. So I thought that it was a really good story. I liked that he touched on the idea of the psychology behind being alone for such a long time, because by the end of the book, Robert Neville has been alone for about 3 years, and just imagining what that would do to you psychologically, I think that he handled it very well. It was written very well. This book was written in the 50s, but I feel like it still held up in a lot of respects. And especially for the time that it was published, I feel like it was probably a pretty edgy vampire story, So I really liked it. I liked how Robert Neville was kind of a normal guy, just happened to be in this crappy situation, and he was trying to survive. Yeah, I thought it was good. I liked it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I almost forgot to mention with I Am Legend was that I buddy read this with Alex from Hey Little Thrifter, and we had a good time. It was a fairly quick buddy read. I think it was only 2 days, but we really both enjoyed the book, and I really enjoyed buddy reading with Alex, and I hope that we find something else to buddy read soon. So I almost forgot to mention that. I wanted to throw that in really quickly because I love Alex, and I wanted to, I didn't want to forget about the fact that I did a buddy read with her and that she's great. So yeah, anyway. And then the next book that I read during the readathon, unfortunately, we're going to get into an unpopular opinion here, but I read The Chalk Man by C.J. Tudor, and this fulfilled the challenge to read a book published in the last 5 years. It was published in 2018. See, I can never remember when this book was published. Pretty sure it was 2018, though. I didn't like this one, guys, which is shocking to me as well, because I really thought I was going to love this, because it has a trope in it that I absolutely love, which is kids, a group of a friend group dealing with something, some sort of horror element or, you know, bad guy or whatever. And so I thought I was really going to love this, and I did not. Unfortunately, I had a lot of disconnect with this book. I didn't really connect with any of the characters. I didn't believe the friendship group. Like, and I get that sometimes, like, when you're a kid, you hang out with the people that just happen to live around you, and you don't necessarily, like, connect with them or jive with them. That wasn't the case for me. The people that I grew up with, that were my neighbors and were my friends, I genuinely, like, loved and still talk to many of them and still friends with many of them. But I understand that that happens to some people. And I think that was the case in this story. I didn't feel that the friends were really connected. They were just friends because they happened to live by each other. So the nostalgia for that type of friendship group just wasn't in this book for me. And then that was probably my biggest issue, was I wasn't buying the friendship, and I wasn't really connected to anybody. And the twist at the end, there's kind of two. There's like a big reveal, and then there's like a twist. And the reveal was very underwhelming for me. I kind of felt like I kept waiting for something big to happen, and it never came. And then there's a big twist at the end that I just kind of was like, about. Like, it just wasn't as good to me, I guess, as it was to so many other people. So yeah, I'm going to be passing this copy along to someone else because I don't want it on my shelves because I didn't enjoy it that much. I gave it 2 stars. So that doesn't mean that I'm not going to try more CJ Tudor. I know she has a new book that just came out this year that I will give a try, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But this one just did not hit the mark for me. So then the next book that I completed for the month of May, I feel like this book was the perfect book for me to read when I read it. It's like one of those books. I read I Mom So Hard by Kristen Hensley and Jen Smedley. These 2 ladies do a web series, and I adore them. I think they're really funny. Like I said in my TBR video for May, I'm planning to go see them live in July. And I'm really excited because I really enjoy them. And I started reading this book like the day after the stomach bug hit the house, the aforementioned stomach bug. And it was just the perfect thing to be reading while dealing with, you know, one of the basic things of motherhood, which is dealing with your sick children when you are yourself sick. It was not a good time, but this book really cheered me up. It made me laugh. It also got me a little choked up at times. It just made me, I related to it so well. I just love the message that they have for mothers and women in general. You know, that we need to support each other. We need to help each other out. We need to stop being so judgmental. All that good stuff. This book totally was just, it was a good read, and I really enjoyed it. And I would recommend it to people because it's just one of those kind of feel-good books. It was the perfect book to read while I was sick and dealing with sick because you could kind of jump in and out of it, and, you know, it was good. I liked it a lot, and I gave it 4 stars. My next May read was one that I listened to on audio, and it's a middle grade book called Fish in a Tree by Linda Mullally Hunt. This has been on my TBR for a really long time, and I just happened to see on Overdrive that they had the audiobook available, so I was looking for an audiobook, so I started to listen to it, and I'm so glad that I did. This was a very good book. It's about a young girl named Allie who is in 5th or 6th grade. I can't remember what grade she's in. And she has been harboring a secret for pretty much her entire life, and that is that she cannot read. And she finds ways to kind of distract people from that fact, and most of the time people are just like, oh, Allie's just like, you know, she just doesn't want to do the work, she's lazy, she's this, she's that, she's a troublemaker, blah, blah, blah. She moves around a lot because her father's in the military, so that kind of helps her a little bit in that she, you know, can kind of go under the radar for the most part because she knows that she's not going to be in one place for very long. And so she's kind of living this life of, you know, hiding this huge fact about herself, and then her teacher goes on maternity leave, and she gets a substitute teacher who comes in, and he changes everything and really helps her out. And this is a really good book just about how it really made me think about and reflect on the teachers that I had in my life that really, affected me, really had an impact on me. I think everybody has at least one or two of those teachers throughout their childhood that they just remember very fondly. And that teachers, for the most part, most of them are really wonderful people that genuinely care about educating children. And yeah, this was a sweet story. It also touched on, friendships, bullying, acceptance, being who you are, not judging people, all that good kind of stuff that you want a middle grade reader to be reading about in a book. So I really enjoyed this. I would highly recommend it, especially if any of you are kind of looking for maybe some middle grade books to hold on to for middle grade March next year. This would be a great one. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. My next read that I completed was for my local book club, and that was The Sun is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. I had to return my copy to the library because I borrowed it, so I don't have a physical copy anymore. But like I said, I read this for my local book club, so it's not a book that I would have typically picked up. It's a YA contemporary romance, which is just not something that I read. The funny thing about me is when it comes to my reading, I don't really like romance stories that much. I just don't feel drawn to them, but I do like romantic comedies, romantic movies. Those are fine. But for some reason with my reading, it just doesn't happen very often. So this book, going in, I already knew, I'm not gonna love this book. I'm not gonna be blown away by this book. And I mean, I wasn't. But I think that it was an enjoyable read. It's about 2 teenagers, Daniel and Natasha. They're living in New York City, and it all takes place on one day. They happen to meet on this one day, and it happens to also be the last day that Natasha and her family are going to be living in the United States because her family is being deported back to Jamaica. And Daniel comes from Korean immigrants, and is feeling lots of pressure from his parents to be a doctor and to kind of go live that life when really he wants to be a poet. So they kind of meet, and then, a romance ensues. I mean, that's not spoilery. So I thought it was a fine read. It took me a really long time to read this book for some reason. It's not a very long book, but it took me a long time to finish. I think it's because the chapters are so short. They're like a page or two, and they alternate. Pretty much every other chapter alternates between Daniel and Natasha. And then there are, though, some kind of chapters throughout that are sprinkled with secondary characters and this kind of omniscient narrator telling you information, which I liked. I actually liked that a lot about the book. So, I mean, all in all, it was fine. If I were a teenager, I would have probably loved it a lot more. But it's not normally a book I would read. Yeah. And I did go and see the movie with my book club, so I might do a Flicks and Lit on that one, because I do have some thoughts about the movie that I feel like I want to share. So that might be an upcoming video. But all in all, the book was okay, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I did have one DNF this month. Unfortunately, I DNF'd Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. I made it about 100 pages into this, and I just wasn't connecting with the writing or the story. Now, that's not to say that I don't want to read or try another Octavia Butler book. I've heard Kindred is really good. So let me know out there if any of you have read both Parable of the Sower and Kindred, if you think that I should give Kindred a shot. This one, I think the main thing was that I was a little confused by the story and I had to do some more reading to kind of figure out what was going on, because the story is told from the perspective of a 15-year-old girl named Lauren. She's living in this apocalyptic sort of scenario where basically everywhere in the United States it's very, very dangerous. It's almost like there's no law. There's killings going on in the streets, people being raped, people being robbed, beaten, every bad thing you can think of is happening. And she lives in this little walled-in community but has kind of these aspirations of getting out, because she's like, we can't continue to live this way. Like, we need to get out and like try to, I don't know, to fix this or to change our way of life. And then so sprinkled throughout and in the beginning of every chapter, there's like these, I don't even know what to call them, these like kind of little sentences from this book called Earthseed. And it turns out that Lauren is kind of creating this new religion called Earthseed. And that was the part that I was just like, it just like, I didn't get it. It just wasn't connecting. And the story was just super slow paced, which I don't always like dislike in a book, but I just was having a really hard time with this one. So I decided to put it down. I'm going to pass it on to somebody else who might like it more than me. So yeah, this was a DNF, unfortunately. And I finished off the month with another audiobook, and that was The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides, I believe is how you say the last name. This was a very like hyped up thriller. A lot of people have been talking about it and stuff. And I was waiting for quite a while for the audiobook. So my expectations were a little high, and it was all right. I think I struggled back and forth between 3 stars and 4 stars with this one. And I think it was because I liked the story, and I didn't guess the twist, but I also felt disconnected from it. Because I think initially when I finished the book, I was like, okay, I think it's a 4. But then I ended up changing it to a 3 because I was like, no. Because as time went on, I was kind of like, I don't really feel connected to it, and didn't feel like, compared to other thrillers that I'd given 4 stars to, I just didn't feel like this one was a 4-star read. But it is about a guy who starts working at this mental institution because he wants to work with this specific patient who was charged and put into this asylum after killing her husband. And ever since the murder occurred, she hasn't spoken a word. And so he wants to kind of break this woman open and find out all her secrets and what happened and why she isn't talking and all this kind of stuff. So it was a really interesting premise. And like I said, the twist was good. It was good. But I don't know, something was missing. Something was just missing for me with it, and I just couldn't quite give it 4 stars. So maybe 3.5. I don't know. I think I rated it 3 on Goodreads, but maybe I would push it to like a 3.5 because it was good. It was entertaining. I thought the narration was done really well in the audiobook and all of that. It just wasn't like, it just didn't like wow me. So there's that. Alright guys, so those are all the books that I read in May. Like I said, it was kind of a up and down, weird reading month for me. Luckily so far June is not that way. I'm not feeling as slumpy. I'm not feeling as burned out. So that's good. So yeah, let me know how your reading month went in May. I'd love to hear what everybody read, and that's all I have. So I hope you guys are having a great day, and I will talk to you very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.